So in today's episode, I'm gonna be digging up the pups from this day palm. It has been in the ground for about 3 years or so. And let's get started with, when do you dig them up? When do you know it's a good time to actually start propagating from offshoots? Well, usually I don't have a rule, but I can tell you, these plants right here, they have been ready for over a year. How do I know that? Because they're huge. You see that right there? That's huge. They're about, I would say, maybe 18 inches to 2 feet long, the trunks themselves coming off the ground. And then the fronds are just as big as the main plant. So if you want to be sure 100% that you can go ahead and start digging them up, wait until the fronds of the pups are almost as big as the main plant. If your plant is young, obviously, and then you can go ahead and dig them up. Or if your plant is bigger than mine, obviously, then wait until the trunk of the pups are about a foot tall. And then you can go ahead and dig them up. Some of the tools you're gonna need for digging them up is you're gonna need some pruners. You're gonna need a space shovel like this one. You're gonna need whatever you call this one. It's like meant for cutting roots. And then you may need a sawzall like this one right here with a long blade meant to cut wood. You may get away without it, or you may need it. It just depends on your soil. Another recommendation I have is to make sure the soil is wet. Soak the ground for a day, 2 days, then give it maybe a few days to dry a little bit, so that will soften the soil around the root ball so you can pull it out a lot easier. Next thing you're gonna do is you're gonna trim up the fronds. Now this guys right here, if you never grow them on day palms, they got like thorns on their tips, and that will mess you up. So to make it easier for me to get in that area, I like to prune them back. How much? It doesn't really matter, just get them out of the way. Especially the ones lower to the ground, you can cut those off completely. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and take off the bottom ones, and I don't wanna get too close, so I'm gonna go ahead and use my saw right here. Anything that's in my way is coming off. Okay, now that the day palm hits a little more open, we're gonna go ahead and then start digging out. And the way you do this, make sure you wear eye protection, because you don't want to kneel in here and then get your eye popped out. So what you do is you get your space shovel right in between the main plant and the pup, and just go into the soil and cut the roots. It's really that simple. All right, I'm gonna be lazy, so I'm just gonna go ahead and get my blade right here in the middle and then go straight down. I was just trying to make sure that I'm cutting when I need to cut, which is right here in the middle, and then that's the main plant over there, so I want to cut that way. So an easier way to do this is if you have a jackhammer, you can get a spade attachment and go right in between, and that thing will literally, it'll only take like a couple of minutes. So I'll probably do that for next time, but this is the first time out trimming my day palm, so doing it the hard way, I guess. I didn't realize there was another pup right next to the one that I was trying to dig out. That's why it was took a little longer. This one right here is a baby one. You can see it was just starting on the side. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that one in a container and see if it takes. Never done one this small before, but yeah. Now, a lot of you guys worry about messing up the roots and all that. Remember, this plant right here has an extremely vigorous, vicious root system. So even if you chop it all up, even if you only have like one strand of root coming out of the root ball, it will still regrow. So don't worry about it. Now, the next thing you're gonna do is you need to prune the front, and the reason why is because while the root system supporting this plant right here is no longer there, I chopped it up. So to minimize evaporation transpiration, so the plant doesn't evaporate water as fast in the summer, you need to prune them back. How much? Usually a good rule of thumb is 50%, especially when root pruning anything at all. 50%, just to be safe. It minimizes the plant from sweating as much or being able to sweat as much in the summer. Do the little guy too. All right, so I got the next one to do now. Since I have more working space, it's gonna go probably a little faster. For next time, I'm definitely going to get a jackhammer. I seen them, I've been to I've seen people use jackhammers in person, and it literally takes just a few minutes to dig this out. You can see here, there's a pup right there. There you go. All right, so this one didn't come out as clean as the other ones. You can see it's just a stump, but believe it or not, they will grow roots out of it anyway. Now we're gonna go ahead and discuss another frequently asked question about date palms, and that is, I don't have any pups. The pups are actually growing out of the main plant on top, like this one. Can I still break those off and propagate them? And the answer is, I don't know. I never tried it. This is my first of my own date palm. Any other time I dug them out of the ground, it was somebody else's. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and break this off, and we're gonna see what's actually under. And this is what it looks like. I don't see any roots. But if that other stump, I don't see any roots. So will it grow roots out of it? I'm not sure. But the other one that I dug out of the ground looks just like this, and I seen them root. No problem. So I don't see why this one it's not going to. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna put this in a container, and then you guys can ask for an update. I would say at least 4 to 6 months from this video. All right, so you got your pups. Now what to do with them? At this point, you got two choices. Choice number one is to put it in a container. Choice number two is to stick it in the ground. So right now, since I'm not sure where I'm gonna be planting this, I'm gonna go ahead and put it in a container. So a lot of people ask what type of potting mix to use. I have a video talking about potting mixes specifically. So go ahead and watch it if you want to know all the details. But just to give you an idea, this is just decomposed pine bark, and that's what I use, 100%. I used to put perlite in there and peat moss. I make so many plants, and like I told you guys, I'm lazy and I like to save money. And to be honest, for older plants, I have not noticed a difference. So I stopped even putting perlite in there. Now I use my decomposed pine bark 100%, and that's exactly what I got here. So you get your pop, fill the container, you stick it in there. How deep? Well, usually you want to go obviously above the root ball. Even if you bury it a little bit, it's no big deal. Let me show you what's going on here. You can see right there. Sometimes when the pop is too big, you may have to stake it. You just get a piece of wood, stick it in the container, and then tie your pop to that piece of wood to hold it in place in case it gets windy. You don't want it to tip over, because this is going to be very flimsy until it roots itself in the ground. And just like that, we got one potted day palm. Now let's talk about how long does this take to root itself in the container. Well, this, in my area, ideal conditions to grow a day palm, it's going to take between 6 months to 1 year to root this container fully. And that is usually what I do when I get day palms like this. I potting up and I wait a year to sell them, because I want my plants to be fully rooted in the ground or in the soil. A lot of the times you're gonna find them for sale on Facebook, Craigslist, anywhere online. Growers will actually just sell the pops bird root, and they wrap them in burlap and keep them moist, and then they sell them to you. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Well, it's cheaper. A potted day palm fully rooted in the container will be more expensive. One that is not rooted in the container will not be as expensive. Probably half the price or even less. At the time of this video, this day palm right here, if it was fully rooted in a container, it is between $200 and $250, just to give you an idea how much they go for. Another thing to watch for is, doesn't matter what size of pop you get. Is it gonna fruit sooner, later? Is it gonna be stronger? Not really. It doesn't really matter. My recommendation is, if you're looking for a day palm, just buy whatever smallest you can find, because what matters is once you put it in the ground, it's a root ball. Once it's fully mature, it's going to fruit. It doesn't really matter how big it is in the container. It's not gonna fruit any sooner. What size container to use? Something bigger than the root ball. This right here is a tall 15-gallon. And it's bigger than the root ball. And once it's fully rooted in this container, it will need to be up-potted again. But this container will do this plant easily for the next 2 to 3 years. It's not gonna grow, just like the one that I showed you in my how to grow day palm video. I show you an update, and I showed you that they don't really grow well in containers. They need the root ball space. Now, another thing I wanted to talk to you about is, a lot of people ask, how can you tell if it's a male or a female day palm? You cannot tell the sex of the plant until it actually flowers. For them to flower, they need to be in the ground, fully mature, 100%, and then you gotta wait for them to flower. The female flowers look like this on the screen. The female flowers on the day palms, they look like bulbs. They're like closed up, just like what you see on the screen. So if you ever see a day palm and the flowers look like that, that is a female. Now the male flowers actually open up and they have pollen in them. And they look like actual flowers. Those are gonna be the male flowers. And that's how you can tell once they get older if you have a male or a female. Obviously, you may not have this soil in your area. So what I usually recommend people is watch my video on potting mixes to understand more what makes a good potting mix or a bad potting mix. And it's all about the drainage. If this is not available in your area, just use cactus mix. Any potting mix works just fine. Don't get fixated on it. As long as it drains the water, it will be fine. But anyways, guys, that is it. That is how you dig up your own pups from the ground, how you can identify if you have a male or a female, what size container to use. I told you everything you need to know in this video, so you shouldn't have any more questions. But if you do, as always, you can go ahead and comment below. But if you have more specific questions, you can go ahead and join my Patreon. And I will certainly answer your questions there 100% of the time. Keep in mind, I get a lot of questions, guys. I get a lot of calls, text messages, emails. I cannot answer all of them. Unfortunately, I'm just not able to. But anyways, as always, if you like the video, don't forget to like it. If you haven't subscribed, what are you waiting for? And I will see you next time.